What's up, True Crime World? You're here with Luminol on the Wall. I'm Bevy.
And I'm Becky. And today's case is about a single mother found shot to death in the trunk of her car. And because of some serious tunnel vision in the initial investigation, a murderer was left to roam free for 2 whole years. This is a case of Heather Bogle. Listeners' discretion is advised.
Hey, Becky.
Hey, Bev.
So before we really get into today's case, we just wanted to let all of you guys know a couple of ways that you can support Luminol on the Wall. Number 1 being follow us on whatever streaming platform that you guys are listening to us on and download our weekly episodes. Secondly, give us a follow on our Instagram page, which is Luminol on the Wall. And lastly, feel free to buy us a coffee with the link in our Instagram bio.
Yeah, we totally appreciate everyone who has supported us up until this point because we absolutely love doing these podcasts. So with that being said, let's get into today's case. In 2015, 28-year-old Heather Bogle was on a path to success. She worked the night shift at Whirlpool and was attending nursing school. Heather was doing this all so that her and her 5-year-old daughter Mackenzie would be able to live a more fulfilled life. Heather was a single mom from a pretty young age, but she had never actually married Mackenzie's father. Heather was said to be very beautiful, and her friends and family said that she had one of the best smiles in the world.
Ooh, in the world.
In
That
the
must
world.
be a banging smile.
It was nice, I'll give you that. She also had lots of men that were interested in her. However, her love life wasn't as successful as her professional one. But that was okay because she was more focused on her daughter and working towards their future. This slightly changed when she met Carmela Badillo. The 2 women met at the Whirlpool factory where they became really good friends, and they eventually started dating in 2014. Jump forward to early 2015. Heather's nursing school was coming to an end, and she was taking her final exams. But unfortunately, she found out that she had actually failed one of the tests.
Ooh, no good.
No good at all. So this meant that she wasn't able to move forward with her nursing career at that moment.
Right, she'd have to redo one of the exams.
Exactly. So this really upset her. She felt super disappointed in herself.
No kidding.
And on top of that, Bev, Heather and Carmela's relationship was on the rocks. They had been fighting and bickering lots. And then on Wednesday, April 8th, 2015, the 2 women had a huge blowout, and it would appear at that time that their relationship was donezo.
Yikes.
Despite all of Heather's hardships and heartache, she carried on with her regular routine. She would go to work at 10 p.m., get off of work around 6:15 a.m., and then go home for a bit, sleep, and then go pick her daughter up from school. That way she could spend some quality time before she had to go to work all over again. On April 9th, 2015, to everyone's surprise, Heather didn't pick up Mackenzie from school.
Which would be very surprising for a mom to just leave their child at school.
Yeah, she was not that type of person. So Heather's sister Jen found that it was odd, and she thought that her sister maybe just slept in by accident. You know, I think it happens to someone at least once a year.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like unheard of that a parent would leave their child at school, but it's definitely like weird.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, something happened.
Makes them think.
Yeah.
Now, the family tried to call Heather over and over again, but her phone just seemed to go to voicemail. They really felt that something was off, so they actually decided to contact the local police department. Initially, they were told just give it some time. There must be a reasonable explanation as to why she's not answering and not picking her daughter up. But her family felt that something was just not right, and they could not just sit by and wait. So her younger sister Jen and their friends decided they were going to print a ton of flyers, go hang them up, hand them out, talk to as many people as possible.
Wow, they clearly had a bad feeling, right?
If
you're putting up flyers, that's like panic a little bit.
Yeah, and it wasn't like a huge time frame. So, you know, their gut is telling them,
something's off.
It's not right. Now, as patient as the family was trying to be, minute by minute, they are growing more concerned. So again, they go to the authorities and file a missing person report. And this is when they are put in contact with Detective Sean O'Connell, and the investigation starts. Now, because of the security cameras at Whirlpool, they were able to confirm that Heather left work at 6:17 a.m., and she was wearing a Whirlpool t-shirt. After that, they had no further sighting of Heather. Now, Detective O'Connell and his team immediately get their hands on Heather's phone records, and they can see the last time her phone pinged off a cell tower was around 9:20 a.m. However, they are only given a 6-mile radius, so it's not very specific. After 9:20, Heather's phone is shut off or destroyed. They're not sure.
Oh, God. It's a little ominous, though.
Yeah. Because why would her phone not ping off anything else, even if she slept through her alarm or something?
I mean, the only option is that, like, having it being destroyed is probably worst case, but it could be dead is the only other thing. But with her missing, it's like, well, something more serious is happening. And I'm sure that's probably why they assumed it was destroyed or something like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So between 6:17 and 9:20 a.m., they have absolutely no idea what happened to Heather. Now, the following day on April 10th, they actually find Heather's Oldsmobile. It was found in a parking lot of the Somerton apartment complex. And this just so happened to only be a mile away from the Whirlpool factory. Now, when investigators get there, Bev, and they start searching the car, they find a grisly discovery. Heather was found dead in the trunk of her car, laying in a fetal position.
Oh my gosh.
Now, upon further discovery, they realized that she was shot 2 times in the back, and those shots hit vital organs in her chest. There was also noticeable marks on her wrists and ankles from what they assume was...
She's tied up.
Exactly.
Tied up. Oh my God.
There were bruises all over her body, her face, arms, legs, everywhere. Her fingernails had been cut as low as they possibly could.
Oh my gosh. And as soon as you tell me that, I'm thinking someone would want evidence that's under the fingernails to be like removed.
Yeah, they're doing their best.
Because that's a weird thing to say. It's like she's dead and her fingernails have been cut. Like that's just a weird thing to find, right? Like it's not like she would cut them that low.
Yeah, that's painful. We've all accidentally cut our nails too short and it's like, ugh, that's the worst.
Wow, someone was going through a lot of effort to destroy evidence.
Mm-hmm. On top of that, Bev, all of Heather's hair had been hacked off.
What?
And like right close to the scalp, super unevenly cut. And she was wearing a Mickey Mouse oversized t-shirt.
What the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Why would someone's hair be chopped off?
That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, what's really interesting is that Mickey Mouse t-shirt, it has no holes in it like where from the bullets.
So it was put on her after the fact.
Exactly. So
someone's just trying to take away any potential DNA. It seems like even in the hair, like everything.
The hair, the nails, the clothes, everything. You're right.
Wow.
Because of this brutality of the scene, detectives start to think that this is someone she knows and it's a crime of passion. And so they are starting to think we need to look at the people closest to her.
Right.
So while looking through the vehicle, there wasn't a lot of blood. There was no spatter. So this leads them to believe that she was not killed in her car, never mind in that apartment complex.
Yeah, probably the conclusion that we're all thinking. The crime scene happened elsewhere.
Exactly. Now, the investigators actually find a note from Carmela sitting on the front passenger seat of the car as well. What stood out to investigators about this note was that Carmela told Heather that she was dead to her.
Which is so scary because you have a dead woman in the car that this letter is addressed to. She's dead, and the letter says, "You're dead to me." Investigators are thinking,
did she do it?
Are you the one?
Are you the killer?
Are you guilty? But I have to poke a hole in that theory real quick, because if the car was so meticulously laid out and so was her body and all evidence was meant to be destroyed, why would, if she was the one who killed Heather, why would she leave her note just on the passenger seat?
Well, that is a very good point. Why would someone do that when trying to cover up all the other evidence?
Yeah,
it seems stupid.
Yeah, it's stupid. I mean,
it doesn't make sense with everything else.
No.
Exactly.
It seems someone so calculated. How could they just let something so obvious slip?
Exactly. They wouldn't.
They wouldn't.
Well, within their investigation, the cops actually are able to connect with a woman who was living at the apartment complex, and she said that she saw someone park Heather's car in the parking lot between 1:30 and 3:30 a.m. Whoever it was wearing a hoodie. They get out of the vehicle and take off on foot, heading in the general north direction.
I'm just trying to pinpoint the timeline here. So Heather gets off work at 6:15 a.m.
On the 9th.
On the 9th. So then this vehicle was placed and someone left on foot the following morning.
Yes, the 10th.
Wow. Okay. So that's a long time after.
Yeah, it is. So as I mentioned before, this lady sees someone take off on foot heading in the north direction. So now the detectives know that they need to go look at surveillance or security footage.
Yeah, they have a direction of where to begin their investigation, which is like amazing.
Very helpful. This woman also is unable to know if it was a man or woman driving the car. So although helpful, it's also not.
Yeah, she saw a hooded figure.
Yes, that is all. Now, because of this, the detectives think, oh, let's bring in a cadaver dog. Let's see if we can get a trace
of where this person went.
Yes.
Oh.
However, in a shocking discovery, the cadaver dog actually hits on an apartment in the complex, apartment B.
Ooh, Becky.
I know. This apartment belongs to a woman. Her name is Kiana Bohr. She lives there. She's a single mom, and Detective O'Connell knows about her because he has had some dealings with her and her boyfriend, who is a drug dealer.
Oh my God.
And so I'm kind of jumping a little forward. In Heather's autopsy, she actually was found to have marijuana in her system.
So
Detective O'Connell is like, drug dealer, drugs in her system. Connection.
Maybe it was like a drug deal gone bad or something.
Exactly. That is exactly what he was thinking.
However, one thing that is kind of confusing me is why would somebody, like say, let's just speculate for a second. If the drug dealer was the one who ended up killing her, right? Why would he dispose of her body right in front of like where he lived?
Yeah, that seems so just like reckless from the criminal standpoint.
Yeah, maybe you're going for that whole theory of like, it's just so obvious, no one would ever think it. So maybe we'll just do it. But yeah, it seems reckless. It just seems like dumb.
Yeah, it does, right? So at this point, Bev, Detective O'Connell is starting to form a list of suspects. We have Carmela. Again, Heather's recently ex-girlfriend.
Who said she was dead to her.
Yeah.
And now Heather's dead.
Exactly. We have Kiana and boyfriend from apartment B where the cadaver dog hit on.
And where the body was found in the complex.
As well as someone we haven't mentioned yet, but Heather's brother Josh.
Why would her brother be a suspect, Becky?
Well, I will touch on it a bit later, but he actually sends her some really nasty texts about her failing her nursing exam.
Ugh.
So they think that there's a bit of unrest between the siblings and that he might have something to do with it as well. Or possibly.
Things are getting interesting, Becky.
They definitely are. The detectives have so many avenues to investigate.
Yeah, 3 suspects already.
I know. Well, Kiana is closest to the scene, so Detective O'Connell decides to go speak with her first. He knocks on the door. She opens it very hesitantly. She clearly does not want to talk to him. She's super evasive and not really helpful.
Which could be for many reasons. She's had dealings with cops before. She's dating a drug dealer.
I would probably be evasive as well. However, she says that she does not know who Heather is and has never seen her before. Now, the question in relation to Kiana being evasive, as you said, she's dating a drug dealer.
She's had dealings with cops before because of this.
Exactly. Or is it something more sinister?
I mean, the cadaver dog did hit on her apartment.
It is concerning, regardless if it's connected to Heather.
Yeah.
Right?
100%. Like, maybe it wasn't Heather, but maybe it was
Someone
somebody
else.
Maybe it was another human being.
Oh my God, we're really conspiracizing here.
I know,
Oh
I know.
my. Look at us, we're bad. Now, Bev, when the detectives start looking into her a little bit more, they check out her Facebook. They're going to see if she's lying about knowing Heather, anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
What Detective O'Connell notices is that Kiana seems to have a real big liking for Mickey Mouse.
No, Becky.
Yes.
No.
And the shirt that Heather was wearing was oversized on her, but looks as though it would probably fit Kiana.
Oh, dear God. That connection is freaky.
Freaking wild. Now, because of this, detectives are looking more into it. They get the security footage close to the Somerton apartments, and they're actually able to see a car that looked just like Heather's within that time frame that the witness saw someone drop that car off in the apartment complex. Within that same time frame, there is only one other vehicle heading in that same direction, and it is a white SUV. Now, as detectives are looking through the Facebook profiles and stuff, they notice a friend of Kiana's is a man named Omar Satchel, and he is known to have taken a bunch of photos with a white SUV. And on top of that, he actually has a criminal background that includes drug offenses as well as violent crimes. And on top of that, he is also known to frequent the Somerton apartments in the weeks and months before Heather's death.
Oh my God. You know what? I think my theory thus far, it's a small one, not about who murdered Heather or anything, but if you see a car that looks like Heather's and that white SUV going in the same direction at the same time, and then you see someone heading northbound, it almost seems like that SUV would be what? A getaway car.
A getaway somehow involved in this crime?
Yeah. It seems as though that might be a plausible explanation for the video footage. No?
It's possible. I mean, I think that's the direction the detectives are going in.
Yeah.
Because, Bev, they actually end up arresting Omar.
Arresting Omar?
Yes. Now, not for Heather's murder, but he had previous weapon charges.
Okay, so it's something unrelated, but I'm sure they're trying to get more information out of him. Like the arrest is probably
like a scare tactic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, on top of that, there was an actual informant that said there was a gun disposed in the Sandusky River. Now, detectives actually did a search of that river and they don't find a single thing. So it's a little irrelevant, but there was an informant that said something. So they think that everything's kind of coming together, that everything's connecting, but there's no weapon. Now, although Detective O'Connell had some coincidences toward Heather's murder with Omar and Kiana, he didn't actually have any legitimate evidence singling anyone out. But he was so bold that he had Omar and Kiana named in the newspaper as suspects in this murder.
Ooh.
Without any real evidence. So at this point, Detective O'Connell's theory is that because Heather had marijuana in her system, that she had gone to the Somerton apartments, bought weed from Kiana and her boyfriend, and then something went awry that led to her death.
Something big would have had to happen though, hey? Like a marijuana dealing gone bad. It just seems like murder is not what would come of that.
Yeah, it doesn't, right?
Yeah, like as I'm seeing it so far, the motive is it has a lot of holes in it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Like why would they feel the need to murder somebody and put themselves at risk of being charged with a major fucking crime when they're just dealing her marijuana?
Well, exactly, right? And Heather's family said she was known to have dabbled with marijuana because she had pretty bad anxiety at times and would use it to calm that down and be able to rest.
Right. Okay.
So
she's gone through a lot.
She has gone through a lot. So it's not like she was really out hanging with the bad crowds or, trying to pull the wool over someone's eyes and not pay them for their drugs. She was just a mom trying to get through life with
and
a little bit of assistance.
A casual smoker.
Exactly. So later down the road, Kiana actually does an interview with Dateline. And she actually thinks that Detective O'Connell is fabricating the fact that the cadaver dog hit on her specific apartment. And the reason why is because she is still adamant that she has never seen Heather a day in her life. She's never sold drugs to her. So there is no reason why this cadaver dog would hit on her apartment. She assumes that because her boyfriend has had dealings with the detective, that he is fabricating that.
Right. He's just kind of like, he knows of them.
Yeah, he knows
so
there's
like,
the apartment.
Oh, how convenient that her vehicle was found in front of this known drug dealer's like complex or whatever.
Exactly. So she thinks maybe the cadaver dog kind of moseyed around and maybe hit on some things.
Hit on it.
Exactly. So she thinks he's kind of just playing it up a bit.
Yeah. And it kind of gives more theory to maybe there was another body in that apartment. No.
She's guilty of something. So ultimately, she actually thinks that he has a personal vendetta against her boyfriend. And is just kind of like, I got you somehow.
Right.
Now, the Dateline interviewer asks, why were you so evasive when the police spoke with you? Like, why weren't you more helpful?
Yeah, we're all wondering, like, what was it?
Yeah. And she said it's simply because she was at home smoking weed. And the next thing you know, there's a cop banging on her door. And so she just kind of cracks it open like, who the hell is there? Oh my God, it's the police? Holy shit. She kind of started panicking and just wanted to like, be gone. I'm high as shit right now. So she was just scared.
Why would you open the door? If that was me, I'd be like running to the back room like, go away, go away.
No, I'm not home.
I'm not home.
Well, I actually had
marijuana.
Well, I actually had a really similar experience like that before. And it is really scary.
When a cop knocks on your door after you smoked a reefer?
Yeah. Especially if you're a young adult, you think your life is over. You're going to jail for the rest of your life. Now, you see that happen to me. I lived in an apartment in my early 20s. We just had a bong hoot, middle of the day on a weekend day off. There's a knock at our door. I go look through the peephole.
Is it a cop?
Bevy, it is more than a cop. There are cops. There are paramedics. There are firemen.
What the fuck?
Yeah, like I'm shitting bricks. And I'm like, Jamie, oh my God, there's the police. He starts spraying air freshener everywhere. Like we're panicking. Like we do not want to go to jail.
Help. They're going to open the door. It's going to reek of weed and fucking air freshener.
Oh yeah, both. They know what we were doing.
But I get the panic sets in.
Yeah, and like our house isn't, the cleanest. Like we're super messy.
So you're like, okay, well, it's obviously something serious. Like we have to open the door.
Yeah. So I open the door and they say, we got a call for a welfare check. One of your neighbors called because they hadn't seen you in a long time and there's a horrible smell coming from your apartment. And we just want to make sure everyone's alive and well. Can we come in and look? And I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, there's like, it's still cloudy in here. It's still like, smoky, like shit.
The horrible smell? Was it?
Okay.
Did it smell like a skunk?
Well, it did, but it didn't smell like decaying body. Like our house wasn't like that dirty. It was just like unorganized.
They didn't have a dog with them. They didn't hit a fucking cadaver hit on your
No.
Well, what smell then?
Well, I don't know why our neighbor called that in because our garbage disposal was jammed with fucking garbage. And so people were placing all their garbage in it was a little room you went into.
Oh, okay.
Like 3x3 room. And people were just piling their garbage and no one cleaned it out. So it was, our whole floor smelled like shit.
Oh.
It wasn't our apartment. Like the whole floor, you walk out of the elevator and you're like, oh, it smells like rotten garbage.
Oh, so because it was smell.
But our freaking crazy neighbor
just assumed it was
we're
you
fucking
guys?
Dead, decaying in our apartment, even though we went to work every day. It's not like we just were in our apartment for weeks at a time. It was mortifying. We were so scared. Fortunately, the police just left. But was I evasive? Yeah. I fucking was.
So her story could be quite plausible.
Yeah, I can
especially because you opened the door.
And I opened it a crack and was like, hi. Oh.
So you're like, I feel the need to open this because you're the fucking police or paramedics, but also I'm like, I'm
shitting bricks.
Yeah. Can you go away?
Yeah. So, let's do this fast.
Her retelling of this and memory of what happened and her explanation, I mean, could be very plausible, could be similar to yours. I see. So, I mean, it doesn't completely not make sense, right? It in fact makes sense.
It totally does. I can totally empathize with what she was going through.
That's wild, Becky. That's wild.
I was mortified. It was I was so scared, Bev. Like, you know me, I was like, good girl, didn't like do anything bad, didn't push the limits. And then here I am smoking a little weed on a Saturday, and like the police are at my door, and I'm like, oh no, my life is over.
I couldn't get charged.
Yeah.
Of course, this is before weed is legal.
You know, yeah. So I was being bad. I was doing something illegal.
Oh,
But
God.
anyways, I can really sympathize with her, and I understand where she's coming from.
Fair enough.
So Kiana and her boyfriend think that Detective O'Connell and team are targeting them. And so does Omar Satchel, who is,
Ooh,
remember, the
interesting.
man in the supposedly white SUV.
Yeah, the getaway car. Just kidding.
The getaway, as Bev says.
But yes.
So he has no idea why they're doing this. So he actually goes and speaks with his lawyer. And he starts to realize that Detective O'Connell has no viable evidence or any particular reason for trying to label any of them as suspects. They feel that they are being set up.
Right. And you know what the sad thing about all of this is even if they were the ones that did this, Detective O'Connell, he like, without having any evidence and kind of going forward in this way, like he kind of sets his case up to fail because now they have a chance to talk to lawyers. They have a chance to like kind of get their stories straight. And like, so even if they were guilty, which I'm not saying they are because we really don't have any evidence in this case yet, but even if they were, him going about it this way, it's just kind of like poor detective work, I feel.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he's quite following the evidence.
Well, he's following like coincidences, but if you have no viable evidence that actually puts them at the scene or anything like that, it's just like all hearsay. And even if he were to bring it to court, like it would fall flat. Like they would get acquitted. Like they'd be like, a Mickey Mouse shirt. A lot of people like Mickey Mouse.
A lot.
So,
well, exactly. So because Omar feels that he's being kind of set up, he actually insists on giving a DNA sample so that they can rule him out.
Whoa.
Which they did find DNA under Heather's fingernails, or what was left of them.
No.
Yes. And his did not match.
Wow. I mean, if you are guilty, insisting on giving your DNA, it's like,
why
ridiculous. You wouldn't.
Exactly.
Holy shit. So by him so he is fucking innocent.
He is. And that white SUV
wasn't even his.
Wasn't his, completely unrelated to
No
anything
way.
going on. The photo of him with a white SUV from his social media was from 2 years prior.
So even if he did once have an SUV, like he might have been able to get rid of it, but it didn't even match. Like what?
It didn't.
What? So it was kind of witch hunty. It's like, oh, I see a white SUV. Oh, this person. Oh, look.
Look at that one photo from 2 years ago on your Facebook or Instagram, whatever it was. Oh, you must be party to this.
Well, scratch my fucking theory on that getaway car because
it ain't.
That ain't it. That ain't it.
Completely irrelevant. Bev.
Irrelevant.
Nice try. I'm going to start calling you Detective O'Connell.
Yeah, I was going to say. If I was a detective, I would suck. No.
Yeah, you would. No, I'm just kidding. You're smart.
Wow.
You'd figure it out.
So good for him for giving his DNA.
Yeah. He's like, I'm not fucking around.
I'm not going down for this shit.
I did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
So at what point, like, we're already starting to think, like, you have the wrong people, guy. So at what point do you think he starts thinking that? Now, amongst this whole scenario, Heather's family thinks that Detective O'Connell is going in the complete wrong direction when he's looking at this trio.
Right. Like we said, like the motive just like isn't there.
Yeah, like he's really reaching and just like trying to piece things together that don't belong. It's not the same puzzle that he's working with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So Heather's family thinks that he should be focusing on people who are close to her. And just like the initial theory that how badly she was beaten.
How it seemed so personal.
Yeah. So Heather's family is like, why aren't you focusing on the people closest to her? That would make more sense with the brutality of this crime.
Yeah, a crime of passion, if you will.
Yeah.
And you do have some people in her life that like were throwing shots, you know?
Exactly. So,
which is more motive than what the other people have.
Like complete random strangers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, it's insane. So Jen, Heather's sister, thinks, why aren't you looking more at Carmela and their brother Josh?
Which is a lot to say for a sister to be like, look at my brother.
Like, exactly, right? She knew how volatile both those relationships were.
Wow.
So the night before Heather went missing, Josh, her brother, had sent her some frickin' rude texts, Bev.
Yeah.
And they read, "Too stupid to pass the LPM BAT exam? Low expectations of yourself. Typical trash like your mom and dad."
Holy
Like, who says that to their
shit.
sister? She already feels like shit. She failed her exam.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
fucking dickhead.
He's like, I'm going to kick you when you're down.
Right?
Damn.
Yeah, so mean. Now, Detective O'Connell had started looking into Josh a little bit, and he said that he was not easy to work with. He was up and down and all over the place, cooperative one day and not cooperative the next. He said when they asked for his DNA, he flat out refused it. But from Josh's point of view, he says that he wasn't ever asked to give his DNA. And he says, although he regrets sending those mean texts to his sister, he really did love her. And he felt that she was the one person in his life or in his family that truly supported him.
Aw, you know what's very kind of interesting about that is that sometimes you are the rudest to the people you love the most.
Yeah, that is the truth, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't condone him saying that stuff. It's rude and uncalled for. But
Mhm.
I mean, like him saying that, I can see it.
For sure. Like, I've said rude things to you. I've said rude things to Axel, our brother.
Yep.
And vice versa for all of us.
Yeah, it goes around. Like, there's nothing like the cutting words of a fucking sibling.
Yeah, right. That is the fucking truth, Bev. Oh my God. But, you know, you forgive and move on and you love them even more. Not because of that, but just because you grow and love them more.
Yeah. Oh, man. You could tell just by our sad laughter, like kind of extreme laughter about this. It's like, we've said some shit.
We sure have. Like, I'm glad we're in our 30s now, mature, loving each other, accept one another for all our flaws and not flaws.
But
we've said
it
some
wasn't
shit.
always that way.
No, it wasn't. So, although Heather and Josh seemed to have this super volatile relationship, it didn't really seem that Detective O'Connell really went far with that part of the investigation.
He just left it where it was. He's like, oh, they have a volatile relationship.
Yeah. He
And that's
says, Josh won't give me the DNA, but Josh says he didn't even ask. So it just kind of halted.
Right.
So was
like,
he
who's
involved?
telling
Was
the
he
truth?
not? Yeah.
Like, is Detective O'Connell just trying to cover his ass and that he actually did his due diligence instead of just going on this witch hunt? Or is Josh lying and saying he wasn't asked when he was?
Well, exactly.
It's just kind of confusing.
It is. But also the interesting part is that they do have DNA from under her fingernails, remember?
Right.
So that would be, if they did get his DNA.
Thing.
Yeah.
Like if he literally asked him and he refused, that would be a huge cause for concern and
Huge
something
red
that the
flag.
detective should totally look into.
Exactly. But it seemed like it was just dropped. Oh, you won't give us your DNA? Okay. You must be innocent.
Yeah.
So it didn't go anywhere.
A failing on the detective's part if what he said was true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the family had high suspicions of Carmela being involved in this crime. The reason why is because when Heather was alive, she loved to dye her hair. She loved to style it differently. She just loved playing around with it. Because of this, her hair was pretty damaged.
Yeah.
And she always thought that Carmela didn't really like her hair, or that's what she told her sister.
Oh.
So when Jen heard that all her hair was chopped off, she had like alarm bells for Carmela.
Like,
she thought she did it.
Right. She's like, are you trying to humiliate my sister by chopping off her hair and making it worse because you didn't like it?
Exactly.
Okay.
And then on top of that, the note was found on her passenger seat from Carmela. And as we said before, the line being, "You are dead to me."
Right. But
created tons of suspicion.
As we also said, is that how could someone be so careless in leaving a note when they were so calculated in trying to remove DNA?
Exactly.
So it's looking like all of these avenues that were possible targets are kind of like falling flat.
They are falling flat, and Heather's family feels that Detective O'Connell wasn't actually doing a good job of investigating. And that's where a lot of tension arose from.
Right.
between
yeah,
the
of
family
course.
and police department. Now, the family was so pissed that they actually called his superiors, Detective O'Connell's superiors, to let them know how unhappy they were with his investigation.
Damn.
And every time they talked to Detective O'Connell, they felt that he was dead set on a drug deal gone bad theory.
Right.
And that he felt that that was a stronger direction than Heather's brother or ex-girlfriend. So 16 months after Heather's murder investigation started, her family felt that it was going absolutely nowhere because there was no evidence proving the detective's part. They hadn't investigated the other two people that the family felt was involved. What now, right? So the family took it amongst themselves and they actually made what looked like those political signs that people put on their lawns and put them all over the neighborhood.
Damn, these people survey the fucking neighborhood well. Flyers, fucking, we hate
Tickets.
Detective Connell.
Well, it was more to keep Heather in the forefront of the community's brain to like, let's solve this murder, right?
I appreciate that.
Exactly. Me too. Like sometimes you've got to do that stuff.
To get things moving.
Yeah.
And to see who maybe has the right piece of information that could help solve this case. And just what committed family members to their sister.
Exactly.
I think that's amazing.
It is good. Advocate for the dead.
For the people you love.
Well, Beth. It doesn't
For the dead. Like, the person you love more than anything in the world.
Right, your sister.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah. Advocate for the person who has died.
The dead.
The dead.
Anyways.
Anyways.
At this point in the investigation, the sheriff's office that Heather's family had been complaining to about Detective O'Connell actually came into some controversy of their own. Get this, Bev. The sheriff at the time, his name was Kyle Overmeyer, he was actually arrested because he was caught stealing pain pills that were held in the county custody. He had a severe drug problem.
Whoa. So he was stealing drugs from like people that were caught with drugs. He was stealing their, like what they confiscated.
Exactly, yeah. What was in their custody.
Holy shit.
And on top of that, what's even worse is he was stealing money for his habits from county funds.
Damn.
Yes. So he was caught red-handed and he ultimately pled guilty and spent 4 years in prison.
So this is the sheriff that was caught with this and went to jail.
Yes. So he's the man that was supposed to be overseeing Detective O'Connell's work.
Oh my God. So he basically had no oversight.
Exactly. And so all the complaints that Heather's family had made kind of just were swept under the rug.
By the sheriff.
Yeah, because he was on drugs.
Yeah, he's not doing his job.
Exactly. So this was a clear reflection on how the department was being run at the time of Heather's investigation.
No doubt.
There was zero accountability, in fact. Now, the state attorney general's office actually started looking into Detective O'Connell because of these complaints and how this investigation was handled. There had been allegations that Detective O'Connell had tampered with evidence as well as coercing witnesses so that it would fit his theory of what happened that night. This ultimately led Detective O'Connell to resign from the sheriff's office. So you can imagine the sheriff is gone, the lead detective is gone. Where does this leave Heather's case?
Right. I am wondering that. And like, the family must feel vindicated and fucking happy as fuck.
Yeah, and pissed all at the same time.
Yeah, it's like we have hope, but we also have wasted like almost 2 years or like, what, a year and a half at this point?
Yep.
Of basically a freaking witch hunt, freaking like chicken with their head cut off investigation when we're dealing with someone we love who is dead. Like that's freaking insane.
Exactly. But like you said, on the plus side, there is a newfound hope.
Exactly.
For her murder. Now, the county eventually elects a new sheriff, Chris Hilton, as well as a new lead detective. His name was Major Nick Kotsopoulos. Now, they obviously have a pretty big task ahead of them because now they have to review all of the evidence that Detective O'Connell did or did not collect.
Right.
And then cipher through who is related to these incidences. So they also have to go through all the bullshit all over again.
And it's months past the crime. So we know, like, it's going to be much harder at this point to get more evidence.
Exactly. Because if Detective O'Connell and team didn't collect certain things,
it could be gone.
It could be gone. Exactly.
Well, at least they have the evidence and DNA from under the nails. Like, that's a freaking smoking gun if I ever saw one. Well, if they find the match.
Yeah, so they can eliminate multiple people pretty quick, or
they don't have anyone.
Yeah.
Do they not have anyone, Becky? Do they not have anyone? Are all three of those potential leads just shit?
Yes.
God,
they're all shit.
Damn.
I know.
So where do we go from here?
Well, rather quickly, at least they were able to eliminate Omar, Kiana, and her boyfriend.
Wow. The number one suspect.
According to Detective O'Connell, there wasn't a single shred of evidence that would implicate them in this crime.
Which we kind of knew.
Exactly. They were also able to get a sample of Josh's DNA, and they eliminated him.
Wow.
So at this point, the only one left is Carmela. And her DNA was also compared, and it was not a hit. She did take a polygraph test, and she passed.
Wow.
So now where do they go from there? So they had to go right back to the beginning, that 6:17 a.m. on April 9th. They had to go right back to the last moment she was seen. So investigators decide they need to get a warrant for her actual GPS coordinates on her cell phone. And they did so. They were able to narrow down where she was within that 6-mile radius.
Holy shit.
That exact location was in front of a trailer in a trailer park.
Holy crap. I am furious just thinking of how shitty the previous investigation was. What a goddamn shoddy investigation.
What a goddamn shoddy investigation is right.
They literally found out, like, an exact fucking place where she was. Like, probably the fucking crime scene.
Yeah, pretty much, Bev. And it was only 13 minutes after she left the Whirlpool parking lot. So at 6:30 a.m., they were able to tell that she was at this trailer. And whose trailer was that? A man named Daniel Myers. He worked with Heather at the Whirlpool factory.
Mind blown. So how do they know I know they know each other from work, but like, what is the nature of their relationship?
I'm honestly not sure. But throughout the new detective's investigation, they had several complaints from other women at Whirlpool about him being sexually inappropriate and kind of harassing them, and they were too scared to come forward earlier. So I can imagine that when they left work at the exact same time, because they were on the exact same work schedule, that he in some way lured her or forcefully took her to his house.
Oh, shit.
Yes.
So literally maybe just the nature of their relationship was simply coworkers, and he's a freaky fuck.
Exactly.
Damn.
So detectives do think that this was a sexually motivated crime,
Murder.
But it turned into murder.
Damn. Like, maybe she really fought back.
Well, she definitely did, because she had so many defensive wounds on her hand.
So here's another theory, okay? Speculation, theory number one for this suspect. He lures her with a joint.
Maybe.
Because she did have THC in her system.
Yeah.
And she was having a shitty day. And maybe he said, hey, come smoke a joint with me or something like that, right?
It's possible.
Yeah, it seems definitely possible. Oh, God.
So what's really terrible about Daniel Myers now being on the radar, or not terrible that he's on the radar now, but there was no follow-up from Detective O'Connell with any of the Whirlpool employees when he was in charge. So it was a total huge missed opportunity, because they could have realized that he was creeping some of the other employees out.
Of course.
And maybe they would have looked into him through that funnel.
Well, maybe that avenue, but then they could have also just been like, this is a creepy guy and we can locate her outside of his place. Like, I just don't even understand why that step wasn't even taken to get like her GPS signal. Like, that seems like ludicrous.
Oh yeah, like why wouldn't you do that when you don't have a specific area? Like,
who was the last person to see her alive? Like, come on.
Right?
That's so typically the person responsible. Like, in so many of the crimes that we talk about, the last person to see them is usually, most often, the person who does the crime. Like, wow.
I know. Like, total failure.
Total failure.
What's even a bigger failure, Bev, is that someone had actually emailed Detective O'Connell and said that we think we know someone that you should talk to and who is very capable of doing something horrible to a woman.
Oh my God.
And they said they work at Whirlpool.
And he didn't even look into it.
It wasn't ever followed up with. If they had, Daniel Myers would have been on the radar within 3 days.
And obviously,
of her
I'm
being
guessing
murdered.
He was the murderer.
Yes.
And that his DNA was under her nails.
Exactly. So hearing all this, Katsopoulos goes and speaks with Daniel Myers at his home. He asks him if he ever knew Heather Bogle and what his relationship with her was. He basically tried to distance himself from her as much as possible. When they hear that, they know they need a search warrant. They need to check his place out. So obviously it's almost 2 years later. So what evidence are they going to find?
Exactly. Which is like why you're saying like it's such a fucking shame.
Yeah.
That it wasn't looked into earlier.
Exactly. Now, what they do notice is that a ton of his subflooring had been replaced. Was it replaced because there was a hole in it or there was blood soaked into it?
Oh, shit.
We don't know.
We don't know. But this is just like last week's case with the fucking mulch.
Yes.
It's like as soon as you know there's like a recent renovation, like I'm going to look at that.
Exactly. It's important. It was also noted that apparently Daniel, just about a week or two after the murder, had gotten a new mattress.
Oh.
But obviously they have no idea where was the old mattress. They have none of that.
Right.
So it's more just like coincidence? I think not.
Well, you're putting pieces together. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, he's a creep. They believe it's sexually motivated. He has a new mattress and new flooring.
Questionable. So at that point, seeing the floor disrupted, hearing about the mattress, they now get a warrant for Daniel's DNA. And as you said earlier, Bev,
it's a match.
It's a match. It is a match to the DNA under Heather's fingernails. So finally, this investigation is moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Heather's family is
thrilled.
Happy. They don't even know what to do with themselves, I'm sure. Now, this is 2 years after her death, and Daniel was arrested for her murder. The detectives thought that he somehow lured her to his place with sex in mind, but when she turned him down, he got really pissed and killed her. At that point, Daniel was arrested for her murder, and he sat in prison for about 1.5 years when a plea deal was offered to him. That deal was that he would plead guilty and he would not get the death penalty. However, he still would be spending life in prison. It's said that when Daniel cut off all Heather's hair, it was his last-ditch effort to remove any of his DNA.
Yeah.
So it wasn't to humiliate her or anything like that. He just didn't want to get caught. I mean, I guess that's smart.
It's what we assumed, right? I mean,
yeah.
With everything else so focused on like getting rid of the DNA, it just seemed obvious that that's kind of what the attempt was, even though it's a little odd.
Exactly. But thank God for Heather, because in one final ditch effort, she scratched the hell out of him.
Yeah.
And was able to prove who her murderer was. Now, going back to Detective O'Connell, he was actually charged with evidence tampering and was sentenced to 2 years in prison for that.
Shit. I mean, thank God. It seems like justice was completely served in this case.
Yeah, like it came full circle.
Full circle.
They caught the murderer. They sentenced the man who just did a shitty investigation.
And they freaking sentenced the sheriff who
didn't help anything. Virtually useless.
Yeah. So, like, amazing.
Everyone got what they deserved except Heather.
Exactly.
And although the road to justice was long, it was finally completed.
I love that. I love to hear a story wrap up in that way and hear that justice was served.
Absolutely, Bev. Well, that's all I have. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for sharing.